Welcome back to the Driveway Beers podcast with Mike and Alex. As always, we appreciate you listening. Please rate us on all the podcast platforms. Like, subscribe, comment, share wherever else you're listening, and enjoy the show. Another episode, the Driveway Beers podcast. It's just me. It's just Alex today. Lately, with New Year, it got a little difficult scheduling, so Mike had some stuff going on. Jeremy had some stuff going on. And so you get me, just me. I'm going to talk about a few things today. We're going to talk about, Mark Zuckerberg went on Joe Rogan's podcast, talked about how Meta is going to cut the fact checkers out. And that'll kind of run into talking about the California wildfires. If we got some time at the end, I do want to talk about the Ravens win the NFL playoffs, and that'll come at the end of the show. And you know, I kind of started off on a fun topic, and the fact that I am getting older. My age is starting to show with some degenerative things. Nothing serious, nothing like, oh, I'm dying. No, nothing like that. But over the years, and we've kind of talked about this on the show, like where I have to read stuff like while we're doing the show, like I've got to take my glasses off because I can't read with my glasses on because I'm very nearsighted. So I use my glasses to see far, and I wear them all the time. But when I can't read anymore with the glasses on, so I got to take them off and read and then put them back on. So I did go to the eye doctor. And everything, was confirmed. My eyes gotten worse. So I got new glasses. And the lady asked me, she goes, do you want progressive lenses or bifocals? And I'm like, well, I don't want the line on my glasses. So, let's go with progressives. And she's like, well, just so you know, it can take some time to get used to. But you can always bring the glasses back within 30 days. And I'm like, cool, let's try them out. And oddly enough, that whenever I go get glasses, I always get a regular pair and I get a pair of sunglasses. Now, the sunglasses, I just got regular, no progressives, no bifocals. Because generally, when you're outside, how often do you need to read anything other than at a distance, right? So I was like, no, we'll just do regular glasses for sunglasses. And then for my everyday regular glasses, I'll do the progressives. And they came in, I tried them on, and they gave me a massive headache, right? My eyes, so I guess with progressives, like the top part of it, you can see your distance, and then when you look down, you can read with them without having to take the glasses off. But there's a middle portion of it that kind of it progresses from letting you see distance to letting you read, and that's where a lot of things got blurry, and that seemed to be like where my eyes tended to rest a bit. But then also, if your eyes look right or look left without moving your head, you can see the distortion of it, of whatever you're looking at. And so anyway, I had a heck of a time trying to get used to these things. And I did it for I started with 2 hours a day for I'd say a week. And then I progressed into 6 hours, 7 hours, and I tried to get through a whole day. And I couldn't do it. So I went back to the place, and true to their word, they refunded me the money, and they're going to put new lenses in the frames that are just regular lenses, and I'm just going to have to flip my glasses up to be able to read something close. I just think it's far better than having to deal with and getting used to the headaches, and it was getting a little nauseous and whatnot. So all that to say that my age is getting up there, and it's affecting my eyesight. And the funny part was my wife's like, well, why did they tell you to get progressives if they knew you were going to have an issue? I was like, but they didn't know. And she was going to be like, oh, I'm going to do an email writing campaign with me and my friends against this eyeglass company. I was like, who has their wife write an email campaign to complain about something? Yeah, that's great. Or who does an email writing campaign about glasses or some other or anything else really? Do email campaigns, the Karen campaign, does that really work on anything, especially emails, right? So I was like, no, don't worry about it. She wasn't really that animated about it, but she was like, well, do you want me to go in there and try and fix it? I was like, I got it. I'll go in. They'll just refund me the money. We'll do this. No email campaign is necessary. Besides, I can go and handle it myself, right? I mean, I don't need my wife to go fight battles for me. Don't get me wrong; it was a very nice thought. I appreciated it, but no need for that. No need for the brigade to come and write 100 emails and tell them how awful they are, right? So the new glasses, the regular ones, should be here in about 2 weeks, so I can actually see again. I'm still wearing the old ones. Hopefully, the vision's restored. Although I will say, like, when I'm outside, when I'm coaching softball and I gotta read the lineup in front of me, I gotta put the glasses on top of the head. Like, I'm that guy. I might do the ones. I thought about getting the ones that kind of have the magnet right in the middle, right in the bridge of the glasses, so they'll separate and come back together. I think they do them for readers, but maybe I should do it for regular glasses. Let me know if you got any suggestions for people who, if you need glasses for the distance vision but can't see with the up close, if you can't read with those glasses on. Let me know what you do. Do you just kind of put your glasses up on top of your head, read what you got to read, and then put the glasses back down? It's just an annoyance, you know what I mean? Want to thank Adam Chubbuck with Douglas Realty, Pasadena, Team Alpha Charlie, TACMD.com. That's TACMD.com. Go talk to Adam for any of your real estate needs. I'm about to actually give him a call. I mean, I try to talk to him on a fairly regular basis because he does sponsor the show. But I was going to give him a call because my wife and I were talking about how we would like to maybe get back into the real estate market as investors. So, as some of you guys know, we sold we sold a house and a condo. Now, don't get me wrong, we never bought them with the intention of them being investment properties. We had a condo that I lived in before I met my wife, and then we bought a house together when we first got married. And then when we moved into this house, we kind of took advantage of the low interest rates. And it was kind of like a lull in the housing market, so we wanted to take advantage of like that perfect opportunity of fairly low real estate prices with the low interest rates at the time, and so that's what we did. But we ended up holding on to the other two properties and using them as rentals for quite a while. But we had sold those, and so it was nice having rental income. But it wasn't fun managing the properties on our own. So what I'll probably end up talking to Adam about is seeing what investment opportunities there are, investing in other people who manage properties, and we'll see what he says. So he's very diverse in what he knows about the market. Some real estate agents, they specify, like, they do vacation house purchases. Some do only primary residences. Some are very versed in townhouse and condo markets. Others are versed in very large homes. Adam is different in the fact that he's very diverse. I mean, he's an investor himself, but he also knows the single family market and the townhomes and the condos very well. So he like, when I go to him for advice, he's able to look at the situation in the entirety and say, okay, this is the direction we should go in. Or, hey, hold off for now, wait about a couple months and see if these interest rates go down, because he has very good connections in the mortgage industry. So he's got a way of seeing the entire picture. So when you go to him, it's not a matter of a singular view into the market. It's like, hey, let me look at this from a different lens to try and get you what you want out of the situation. And that's what I really appreciate about him. So go to TACMD.com, contact Adam and his team, and at the very least, have a conversation, and see if making a move in this real estate market is right for you. So I want to talk about a couple of things. One, so for people that listen to the Joe Rogan podcast, which is, 13 million or so people, he had Mark Zuckerberg on. And I've been very vocal about the distrust for Mark Zuckerberg. And with good reason. So, Facebook / Meta, whatever you want to call it, was one of the first social media companies to actually institute censorship on behalf of the government. And he talks about this. I'm not stating anything new. He talks about the pressure he got from the Biden administration about certain information that was placed on Facebook at the time. And with this Rogan podcast interview, he basically, in no uncertain terms, lays out exactly what happened and how the Biden administration would call his executives and basically berate them if they didn't do what the administration wanted them to do, which was not put certain information out on Facebook, basically censor it. To the point where they ended up hiring these companies to do the fact checking. Now, initially, it was the New York Times and the Washington Post, and that was it, which are very liberal leaning organizations. And then they turned to these firms, and these firms were actually ex-Biden officials that had created a company to become the fact checking entity, which got contracts from Facebook to do this monitoring. And essentially what Zuckerberg said was the information being classified as misinformation and disinformation actually misinformation or disinformation, or was it just certain things that they didn't want put out there? And again, this is something Mike and I had talked about a long time ago about, can you trust the fact checkers? Do the fact checkers have a bias or an agenda, as these people did? And so, essentially what Mark Zuckerberg said was they're going to move to what Twitter did, which is a community notes type section for each post. And so on each post, when you post it, someone can, if they're part of the community notes community, can actually click on a button, write a community note, and then the others in the community note community basically up or down vote it and say why. And there's more to it than that. Basically, I think the way Twitter's works, or X works, that if two people generally have opposing views, vote the same way, it boosts that note up. And if that happens enough times, then it goes live on Twitter. I've said this before. We are actually, our account, the Driveway Beers podcast account on Twitter, is part of the community notes community. Meaning we see community notes before they go live, and we are able to vote on community notes as to whether they're helpful or not helpful, but we can also write community notes. Now, I'm going to say this, I've never written a community note at all. I'm not smart enough to know this, right? But I do rate them. And essentially what it does is it asks you, hey, is the link credible that they've provided as a source? Is the language unbiased, or does it have a slant? So basically, is it like just someone going on a rant, or is it just stating a fact to offset the post? It's basically providing information against the disinformation, right? Credible sources, unbiased opinion, and there's some other criteria there that you can check off. Or if you mark it unhelpful, then you can mark off the same things that as a reason to why you're checking it as unhelpful. And so we've done that as part of the community. And to be honest, I take it fairly seriously as I'm going through, because I see it as a valuable tool for any social media network. Now, some people can say we have a bias, but see, the point with the community notes is there's thousands of people that are part of the community. So it's not just my rating that either makes it a credible note or not. Essentially, someone, and we've got thousands of posts on Twitter. If someone with an opposing view a majority of the time to us on a topic rates that community note the same way we do, then both of the ratings move up in the algorithm, making it more of a valid check on that community note. So it's not like what we vote goes live or doesn't go live because of our vote. It doesn't work like that. Someone with generally opposing views from us also has to vote in the same direction for it to get more validity. And so Facebook is saying that they're probably going to go to that model. And if I'm being honest, like, there are ways to manipulate community nodes. And that being, I do believe there's some professional accounts on Twitter and X that were made solely to basically infiltrate the community notes section so that they can basically enforce their bias. But with the way that is, so basically if you create 20 accounts and they all have the same type of viewpoint and they all upvote a certain community note, it actually doesn't do anything to make that community note go live because someone with an opposing view hasn't also upvoted it. And that's what makes it really interesting. It makes it very hard to manipulate. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there are people that are going to try and keep manipulating the system. But as of right now, it's far better than having an established company like a Washington Post or a New York Times, which are very liberal biased. But it's also, you don't want someone like the Daily Wire doing it either because they're conservative biased. You don't want someone to bring their biases into whether something is going to be voted yes or no as far as misinformation, disinformation. You need to make it as unbiased as possible because that's the last check. And pardon me for sniffing. I got a little bit of a allergy issue going on where my nose is getting a little stuffy. So don't mind me. Hope it doesn't come across too bad in the audio. Okay, so Meta, or Facebook, which also owns Instagram, and Instagram really doesn't have as much of a problem. In fact, I was a really late adopter of Instagram, but to be honest, it's probably one of the better social media sites in that, and maybe I just don't see the bad parts of it, but basically all I see are softball, baseball videos, instructional videos. I see dog videos. I see comedy videos. I see food videos. And that's pretty much it. I see ads, of course. Everyone does. But even the ads are harmless, right? I mostly see ads for like softball equipment, baseball equipment, dog food, dog everything. And so basically the ads go along with stuff that I look at, right? And so I actually think that one's probably the least harmful of any of them. Now, don't get me wrong, I'll scroll for days on it, but I'm not seeing like political stuff. I'm not seeing like, I'm not seeing anything crazy on there. I'm just seeing, in my opinion, it's fun stuff, right? It's the most enjoyable of social media ones to scroll through. Now, it's not good for me to scroll for an hour or two through Instagram, right? I get that, but it's not stuff that's making me nuts. Like, it's not going to be political stuff. It's not going to be opinion stuff. It's just, I don't know. To me, it's the least harmful of all of them as far as content wise. It's not the least harmful as far as me just scrolling for hours wise, though. But I'll be interested to see what this does for Meta or Facebook. I keep saying Meta. It's Facebook. I think Facebook is kind of lost right now in that they don't know what to do. The young kids don't really use it. Adults use it adults use social media in a different way than kids do. Adults are looking for information. Me, I like the marketplace. It's a great way to sell or buy things. It's essentially, it's not a better version of eBay because obviously eBay is an auction site, but you get what I mean. Like, I want to deal one-on-one with someone trying to get rid of stuff in their house. eBay used to be that, and now it's a huge corporate takeover. Etsy's kind of the same way, although you can still find like the person still doing handmade stuff, which is nice. I had a golf towel made because I needed one, and this person was able to do it for me, which was great. But Etsy did get purchased by a larger company, and now larger companies these companies out of China are basically saying, oh yeah, we're this person, and they're not, but that's another topic altogether. So for me, like the Facebook marketplace is good. The Facebook groups, the ones that you choose to be a part of, I think are very good. Like I'm in a couple RV groups. I'm in a couple softball groups. I'm in a couple GMC Yukon groups, and they're really, really helpful when I'm looking for information about those certain topics. The neighborhood has a group, which I think is really nice. So I feel like Facebook needs to lean into those things, how to make those experiences better. Because if I'm being honest, if I scroll through Facebook, I'm not seeing the stuff that I'm really looking for. Like if there's a post in my neighborhood Facebook page, I'm not seeing that unless I go to it specifically. I feel like that should be in my page, in my feed, right? But I guess that doesn't make money for Facebook, but you get what I'm saying. But I think this is going to help Facebook, and as far as community notes go, to bring back some kind of more discussion-based stuff with people you normally wouldn't see or talk to, but I don't know. I did think it was an extremely interesting interview Zuckerberg had with Joe Rogan, though. He laid it all out there. And for people that are looking at the extent of how government was infiltrating social media, I can almost guarantee 100% that the infiltration into social media was nothing compared to what it is with legacy media, like your ABC News, your NBC, your CBS, your Fox. And I'm talking like your local news. So like the stuff that like older people watch, like the 5 o'clock news or the 7 a.m. news, you know, before people go to work. Hey, I'm just trying to get a pulse on what's going on, maybe get some weather. Obviously they're not infiltrating the weather, but you know what I mean? Like there's some certain things that they're trying to push out there. And even if they're not doing it to those specific outlets, those people are getting their news sources from centralized news sources. So like your local ABC affiliate, they don't really have an independent journalist. They're just, ABC in general has stories for the day. And that's where they're pulling their information from with stock footage and everything else. Well, if the government is infiltrating the stock news source, well, then it filters down to your local news source. And so your local news, your evening news, your cable news, if they're all saying these same things, yes, that's a way of propagandizing the population. Well, the good thing about social media is when you have community notes, it allows for dissenting opinions to question the narrative. Whereas back during COVID, when Twitter was still run by Jack Dorsey, the government had the same infiltration into Twitter as they did with Facebook. So when you hear Zuckerberg on Rogan's show talking about what happened at Facebook, just duplicate it for Twitter because it happened there too. And it happened on all the other sites. And so if there was a piece of information they didn't want out there, even if it was true, and again, we're talking about fact checkers, not opinion checkers, right? So if someone went online and said that, hey, and I'm not saying this is true or not, because I don't know, but let's say a doctor comes out with factual evidence saying ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, whatever that is, those two together can help fight this virus and is safer for you than these mRNA shots, which they called, They were calling these mRNA shots vaccines, and they're not vaccines. They're prophylactics. A vaccine stops reception and transmission of a disease or a virus, whereas the mRNA shots just help you fight the virus. It helped your body prepare for the virus. It didn't stop the transmission of the virus, and in some people, it didn't mitigate symptoms. But in order for Pfizer and Moderna to make money, and Johnson & Johnson also tried to make money on this, and some other pharmaceutical companies, they had to suppress the information about ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, because if there was a viable alternative, the FDA couldn't provide that emergency use authorization, which is that EULA that everyone talks about. And then those mRNA shots couldn't have come to market as quick as they did. And at the time, those shots were a cash cow for Pfizer and Moderna because the government paid for it. That's why you were able to go get it for free, wherever you wanted to. You could go get it for free because the government was paying for it. It's very similar to flu shots. Yeah, flu shots are everyone can go get a flu shot for free every year. Just go to your local pharmacy, whichever one, and they provide the flu shot for you. Well, that's essentially a big corporation just getting a government handout. Now, look, I get a flu shot every year. I'm not saying don't get your flu shot. I'm just saying these mRNA shots, which were touted as vaccines, actually were not vaccines. And at the end of the day, we will never know if they were absolutely needed because there might have been other prophylactic drugs out there that could have mitigated the symptoms of the virus. One of the early ones that they were allowing to be used was remdesivir, but the reason why that drug was allowed to be used because it was still on patent. There was no generic form of it. And so the company that makes remdesivir was getting paid by the government to use remdesivir. Now, it turns out remdesivir didn't work at all. But, I digress. So, going back to, will Facebook now gain trust of people again as far as news and information because of these community notes? I think only time will tell. And I still think people are going to have their biases on this. So, like, oh, this community note's stupid. It's not real. Like, some people are never going to get out of that. They're never going to believe a community note because their trusted news source is telling them different. And that's not going to change. But you do have people that will say, oh, I didn't know this. Or at least what it does is it takes the misinformation and gives them a link or other information to counteract it. And then people can believe which one they want. And that's important. It now gives someone an informed opinion and counter opinion, or fact and counterfact, or counterfact to misinformation right in front of their face. They don't have to go looking for it. It's right there. And that's important because a lot of people won't go looking for an answer, especially if they don't know that they need one. If they're thinking, hey, this is where I get my news from, this is where the right piece of information is from, why would you go looking for a counterpoint? Unless you were just that inquisitive, right? Most people don't do that. This is where I get my news from. This is what they said. Must be true. Okay. Interesting, though. It's a really good interview. I really suggest you go and listen to it. Even if you hate Rogan, just listen to what Zuckerberg is saying. This is the CEO of one of the biggest corporations in America. Now, is he saying it just to get back in everyone's good graces? There's a new administration. He's trying not to get investigated or whatever. Sure, could be. I don't doubt that. But there's probably a lot of truth in what he's saying. And he's only saying it now because he can. Or he's saying it to get himself out of trouble. I don't know. But it's just a really interesting interview. All right. Speaking of information versus misinformation, I want to talk about the California wildfires just for a minute. So, every time these California wildfires happen, the climate change people come out of the woodwork. They're like, oh, this is what climate change is doing. And you got to understand, climate change is big business. Okay? There's a lot of money in the renewable energy sector as far as the windmills and the solar panels. There's money to be made there. And I'm not a climate change denier type person. I do believe the climate is changing. I'm skeptical as to the reasons why. Is this the normal ebb and flow of Earth that's been here for millions of years? I mean, you got to remember, before humans were on this Earth, there were ice ages. There were the opposite of an ice age, heat wave. I don't know what to call it. There's been ebbs and flows of the environment on this planet for billions of years. Okay. Are humans having that large of an impact on it? Now, some people will say yes, because we do put some carbon dioxide in the air through cars and other forms of transportation. I mean, shoot, our bodies put out carbon just by breathing, right? So overpopulation could be a bad thing. But carbon dioxide is not a sole enemy as far as the environment goes. And the reason why I say that is because carbon dioxide is part of the ecosystem of Earth. It's needed because trees need it. All these trees need carbon dioxide in order to put off the oxygen that we need to breathe. It's a symbiotic relationship. If you got rid of all the trees tomorrow, we'd die off because we wouldn't have oxygen. Now, I'm sure there's other ways to produce it, but you get my point. I do think that the wildfires in California, especially this time around, and keep in mind, they're only getting this much attention because it happened in the richest part of California. It happened to the LA celebrities. That's why this is getting as much of attention as it is. But there were some things that they're being talked about, but only in certain circles. And a lot of it is the mismanagement in LA. There is speculation that the fires were started by arsonists. That has nothing to do with climate change. Now, the spreading of the wildfire could have happened because of climate change, with more ferocious winds, drier than normal brush and whatnot. Now, the 23-24 rainy season in California was one of its largest, so the area wasn't as dried out as some want you to believe. There was also an incident where one of the reservoirs was drained. And they said, well, that we drained it because we were going to fix it. Well, they didn't have a contract in place to fix the reservoir, so why drain it before you even have a contract in place for someone to come fix it? You still could have used it, and you could have used it to fight the fire with. There's a lot going on that doesn't make a lot of sense. And everyone's blaming each other. And somehow Trump gets blamed by Gavin Newsom. The fire chief is blaming the mayor. The mayor's blaming the fire chief. The assistant fire chief is... Apparently, the question was, hey, if you're in the fire and I can't come and save you, well, you shouldn't have been there to begin with. Hi, firefighter. That's what you're there for. That's your sole purpose, is to save lives. You're supposed to be able to go in there and save people. So you're going to walk in, the person's going to be too big for you to carry out, and be like, sorry. That's your fault for being there. It doesn't work like that. I found it so interesting that one of the administrators in LA, she makes like $750,000 a year, and she can't manage the water system there. Like that, she was the one that decided that all the water should have been drained and back into the ocean. It's like, ooh, that's not a good look. Might not want to made that decision on that day, huh? And of course, everyone's like, oh, hindsight's 2020. Yeah, but here's the thing. In the past 10 years, California has dealt with some serious droughts, right? So you finally get a rainy season that fills up your reservoirs. You've got an abundance of what you haven't had in the past. Maybe you keep the water in there. I don't know. Just a thought. And people are, well, she drained it because they were going to fix it. Yeah, but they didn't have a contract there yet. You can drain it after they get the contract in. That way they're working on it right away, right? It just seems like a lot of mismanagement going on. And I'm sure it's not localized to California. Please. I'm sure there's government mismanaged everywhere. I mean, shoot, even locally here, we were talking about the snow removal here. Well, we got like 9 inches of snow. Maybe it's 12. I don't know. Like where I'm from in upstate New York, that's nothing. Plows have that done in like 3 hours, all gone. Like it never even happened. Just that's on your lawn. That's it. Roads are cleared though, with sand on it. Nice traction, whatever. Around here though, forget about it. And so, when pressed about it, the county executive was like, well, normally we have 30% more contract help to clear the snow. So basically these like privately owned snow plows, they contract with the county. Well, then the snowplow companies were like, whoa, wait a minute. The reason why you have 30% less contract help isn't because the contract help went away. It's because we decided to contract with other localities that actually use the contract help. So apparently, these contract companies would go contract with the county, and the county would never call them in, so they weren't making any money on the contract. It was a use contract, meaning when you get called in to go, you then get paid. But if the county doesn't call on you to remove snow, you don't get paid. So they were all like, well, screw it. We're going to go to these surrounding counties and localities or private companies who actually call us in so we can get paid rather than just having these people on standby and costing us money. But the county never said that they mismanaged the contract support that way. Their thing was a sob story. Oh, our DPW workers are working around the clock. They haven't seen their families for a week because they've been on the trucks and all. And we have 34% less contract help than we did before. Okay, yes, but because people in the DPW administration didn't use the contract support correctly in the past years, you lost the contract support. It's not that people didn't want to go to work. It's not that people didn't want to do this. It's that they didn't want to do it for you because you mismanaged it in the past. And now you can't provide the services to your constituents because of mismanagement. But see, they're not going to tell you that part of it. You had to have the old contractors come online and say these things. And it makes government look horrible. You're supposed to provide these basic services. And we're talking about the county level. We're not talking about state. We're not talking about federal, where we already know there's corruption. And I'm not saying there was corruption. To be honest, it was probably that was trying to save a buck to say, hey, they were trying to boost their resume saying, hey, we spent X amount less on snow removal this year. Well, when you needed the snow removal help, it wasn't there because of that. Now, I'm not saying overpay. I'm just saying, look, there was a way to make this work. But the worst part about it was the messaging. They try to play, we try, we're trying our hardest, and we're really we're gonna look into everything, and turn over every stone, finding out what happened. But, we can only work our DPW workers so much, and the contract support just isn't there. So it's like the sob story there. It's not us. It's everything else. There's nothing more we could do. Not true. Let's say you didn't have 34% of the contractors in your system anymore. You still have their phone numbers from years past. Why not give them a call and say, hey, do you have any free trucks? Like, where's the extra effort to provide the service? And the person in charge at a DPW or whatever is probably making 140 grand a year. They're not making nothing. And on a daily basis, they go into work at 7, they leave at 3 or whatever it is. Nice. It's not they're not, hammering nails and whatnot all day. But when push comes to shove, maybe you put in a couple extra hours and extra effort that isn't in the standard operating procedure in order to get shit done. Maybe you look through the previous contracts and look for the phone numbers of the contractors that aren't in the contract support system right now. And you call them up, hey, do you have any extra trucks? You want to know what that company will probably say? Look, we don't have any right now, but let me call a couple people. Let me call a couple people for you. People know people. Use the people to get you what you need. Especially if you're paying. What if one of those contractors that was doing snow removal for a private shopping complex, let's say they got the job done. They made their money. They made their money on that contract. But they got some guys in trucks that want to earn some extra cash. Well, maybe you could have had 4 or 5 more 6 trucks. 18, 20, 30 trucks. Pickup trucks going around, spreading salt, spreading sand, plowing some roads and neighborhoods. There were roads 3 days later after the snowstorm that hadn't even been touched. Like, we went sledding, and the road we went down, like, not a plow had touched it. Now, the snow had been compact because cars were riding over it, but not a plow had seen it since that snow started. And the road treatment didn't do anything. You can put that salt brine or whatever brine down, liquid stuff you want. It's not going to do anything. After a certain point, like if you got like that base layer, like that dusting, yeah, it'll help melt it off so it doesn't freeze. But once that snow comes down to a point where it's layer and layer and layer, 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 that's done. Now you have to plow and put sand down. That's another thing. I always wondered, why doesn't a state like Maryland or Virginia go talk to a state like New York? Like where I came from, where I grew up. Like, you can bash on New York all you want, but when it comes to snow removal, they're on top of it. They know what they're doing. Yes, they plow, but their mix is sand and salt. And mostly sand. After the snow is down, it's mostly sand, and that's for traction, not for melting, especially if your temperatures are going to stay in the 20s and 30s. Oh, I should say, especially in the 20s. Salt's not going to help you in the 20s, right? You need sand for traction. I mean, salt can help with traction too, but a lot of it's the sand. A state like Maryland and Virginia needs to send someone up there. And again, if you're getting paid $150,000 a year, your office will pay for you to go up there for a week. Get their standard operating procedures on snow removal. Find out what their sand to snow mix ratio is. Do your job. But the mindset is, well, we only do this once or twice a year. Even if we screw up, people forget in 2 months. Okay, but you've left some people stranded, or an ambulance has a tough time going down this road because it hasn't been touched, or whatever. Or maybe people just want cleared roads. Can you just do that? You're getting paid $140,000 a year to figure it out. And I'm not opposed to paying someone $140,000 a year. I'm really not. If you're getting what you're paying for. And a lot of people, $140,000, all you got to do is sit at a desk. Look, sometimes you're paying for someone's brain power. I'm sorry. Someone thinks of things that you don't think about. Someone thinks of ways to do things that you're not thinking about doing it that are better and help everybody. I'm okay with that. Sometimes you got to pay for people's big brains. Okay? And stop demonizing someone for having a desk job making that kind of money. Well, guess what? Maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe they get shit done. Getting shit done doesn't always mean you got a shovel in your hand. All right? Sometimes doing things smarter rather than harder is the way to go, which is why people get paid to think of how to do things smarter. It is what it is. Now, am I about to, have my wife and her friends go on an email writing campaign for this? No. But I'm hoping that the people in these positions of power, are learning from these situations so that next time it doesn't happen like that. Make sure you got a Rolodex of snowplow guys, even if they're not contracted with the county, because you didn't pay out or you didn't call them in to get paid. You can still keep the Rolodex and call them up. We got to have some common sense here. We got to have a little can-do attitude sometimes. I feel like sometimes when people go work for the government, and I get it, because if you don't stick to a standard operating procedure, someone's up your ass. But that's the problem with the person that's up your ass. Tell them to go pound fucking sand. You did your job. You did what was in the best interest of the people. That'll vindicate you 99 times out of 100 and make the person who got up your ass look foolish. Just remember that. If you're working in government and you're getting shit done, you're in the right. I know that's not 100% true all the time. You get what I'm saying, though. If you're especially with snow plowing, if you're able to get the snow plowing done within budget, but you had to go a little outside of the box to get it done, and someone gets up your ass about it, no, you're in the right, not them. You're in the right. You did what you needed to do. Congratulations. The people that you're there to serve, thank you. Fuck that guy. All right, that being said, I got about 10 minutes left, and I'm not going to do this topic justice. The Ravens got a playoff win over the Steelers at home at M&T Bank Stadium. Heck of a win. Mike Tomlin, when he did I think, 21-0 at halftime, and he did that halftime interview going in the locker room, you could tell the game was over. You could see it in his eye. When she asked, what can you do? He was like, unless Lamar's going to hand us the game, there's nothing we can do to stop him right now. He was almost like, have you been watching this game? We can't do anything to stop this dude. He had 2 incompletions in the first half. One was an intentional throw out of bounds because he didn't have a play. The second one was with about 10 seconds left on the clock, and he spiked the ball. So another intentional incompletion. So I'm telling you, so his only 2 incompletions were on purpose by him, by design. You can't stop that. If he's going to play like that, forget it. It's done. It's over. And don't get me wrong, the Steelers' defense isn't what the Steelers' defense was earlier in the season. TJ Watt probably banged up. And whoever came up with that defensive game plan, I get it. They had the ends crash down on Derrick Henry. So like on those RPO plays, TJ Watt was just crashing down the line of scrimmage and just hugging Derrick Henry. And big kudos to Todd Monken, because once they saw that, Lamar just held on to the ball, waited for TJ Watt to go past him, and took off. And now you're asking a 240 pound linebacker to outmaneuver Lamar Jackson, probably the best athlete in the game. That's a mismatch and a half, especially if you're giving Lamar like a 4 yard running head start at you. And then what happened? Okay, halftime changeup. We're going to put 3 people to spy on Lamar. Okay. Well, now we're just going to hand it off to Derrick Henry. And you got to hope that one linebacker or safety is going to want to step in front of that freight train. And hope that, Big Pancake Pat Ricard, Snacks himself, isn't also coming through that hole, because now one of you's got to take on that 320-pound behemoth, leaving the other guy with the 280-pound behemoth that is Derrick Henry. And for people that want, he's not 280 pounds, bullshit. My man is like 6'4" and built like a Greek god, and he's thick in a lot of places. My man, all right, I'll give him 250, 260 if he stepped on a scale right in front of me. That's a lot of human being for 180 to 200 pound safety to want to even step in front of. Shoot, Patrick Queen's 230. He was like, nah, I'm not dealing with that. No thanks. I'm ready to go home. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they got 14-something points in that game, and that game wasn't close. It was done by halftime. So now the Ravens go and play the Bills up in Buffalo. What do I think about this game? Well, one, the Bills' defense is awful. Like, not close to good. The Bills won so many games because they just outshot everybody. And that, hey, look, everyone wants to talk about this MVP race between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. And I'm a Lamar Jackson fan. I've got money on Lamar to win this MVP. So clearly I want him to win. But if they gave the award to Josh Allen, I'm not going to be like, oh, that's a horrible call. And I get the numbers favor Lamar. They really do. But last year the numbers favored Josh Allen, and he didn't get it then. Now, the argument that Josh Allen doesn't have the supporting cast around him, I think is very unfair to say. James Cook rushed for over 1,000 yards this year. They have Amari Cooper. They have that kid Shakir. Like, these are not bums. You know what I mean? He's got a very good offensive line. Like, this is not a poor personnel offense, as many of these people want to lead you to believe. He has help. Now, don't get me wrong, though. That dude, he's cut down on his turnovers. Josh Allen has. Now, Lamar did too, though. And Lamar didn't even fewer turnovers. That dude threw 1 interception in each quarter of the season. He had 4. Lamar threw 4 interceptions all year. 40 touchdowns, a 4-to-1 ratio. Okay. No, that ain't right. 10-to-1 ratio? 10-to-1 ratio. I think if Lamar's season wasn't as efficient and historic numbers-wise as it was. Now, look, he didn't throw for 5,000 yards, but listen, 4,000 yards passing, 41 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and, oh, by the way, 950 yards rushing. That's 4,900 yards of offense. If he just threw for 5,000, if he threw for 4,900 yards or 5,000 yards and had 40 TDs and 4 interceptions, it'd be game over. It'd be game over. But that isn't to say that Josh Allen had a bad season. I'm not saying that. Josh Allen's a very likable dude. If you go on Twitter, it's like, big old hate. No. Josh Allen is a good dude. I may or may not know that. I don't know Josh Allen personally, but I know my wife has a family member that knows him. And he's like, the dude is just like what you see on TV in the interviews and everything. That's the guy. It's not an act. It's not, no. Like Lamar is that guy. When he's in the, dude was making comparisons to Cars and Derrick Henry. That's Lamar. That's the guy. Like, that's who you get. It's not an act. Josh Allen's the same way. Just a good dude. Lamar's just a good dude. People you want to be around just because they're nice. You know? Celebrities that aren't letting celebrity go to their head. Just happens to play football for a living. But as a goofy kid. And I say kid, I mean, what? Lamar's 27. Josh is close to that age. I mean, they're kids to me. I'm 45. Good people, man. I'm not going to say one negative thing about Josh Allen. He's had an amazing season. But Lamar's season is something else. And yes, you could say, oh yeah, Derrick Henry. And like I said, but Josh Allen doesn't have, the bad news bears around him. He's got talent. Amari Cooper is a good wide receiver. He just got lost in the shuffle in a couple plays. The guy played in Cleveland for 2 years. Come on. Other than Myles Garrett, name me one Cleveland Brown other than Deshaun Watson, but that everyone knows his name for a different reason. You know what I'm saying? People don't know him because of football anymore. People know him for pitching tents. Amari Cooper got lost for a couple years, but the guy had 1,000-yard receiving in Dallas. 1,000 yards receiving in Cleveland with Joe Flacco throwing to him. The guy's no scrub, okay? That guy, that receiver Khalil, he was so good, according to Buffalo, that they let Stephon Diggs go because they thought he was going to replace him. And then you got Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman's no slouch either. He's having a rookie year, don't get me wrong, but I think in 2 years, I think that dude's going to be something. He's a good personality too, man. He's just a down-to-earth dude. He's dude like I'm 20. He's a down-to-earth kid though, man. Good kid. If the Buffalo Bills had any kind of defense, I don't think there'd be a question that they would be up there as far as the Chiefs are concerned. Because look, the Chiefs were the Chiefs scoring everybody for a while, and then they got a defense, and now they went 13 or 15, 17-1. I don't even know. They lost one game. I mean, no, they lost two because they lost that last one when nobody played. But you get my point, right? You got a little bit of a defense to help out an offense, and all of a sudden now your team is special. I mean, that's essentially what happened with the Ravens this year. First, 11 weeks? Defense was last in every category in the league. Since week 11, first in every category in the league. They made an adjustment. A certain someone got benched. And that changed the entire look of the defense. I mean, you've got a Ravens team right now that is a defense that's playing incredible. And an offense that nobody can seem to figure out. Because every time they just tweak it a little bit. Like, I'm sorry, that Derrick Henry direct snap in that playoff game against the Steelers, using Lamar as a decoy, that play call is phenomenal. Once in a game. Phenomenal play call. The amount that they used the RPO in that game, phenomenal. Will the game plan look the same against the Bills? Probably not, but it's going to be super cold and a little bit windy, so who knows? I'm not going to predict the winner. I'm not trying to jinx anybody. I'm going to do what I did against the Steelers, though. I put $20 on the money line for the Steelers to win, knowing very well that I was going to lose that $20. I'm probably going to do the same thing again. I'm going to put $20 on the Bills to win, money line. Call me superstitious. That's what I'm going to do. You're welcome, Ravens fans. You're welcome. Because if I were to bet on the Ravens, I think I guarantee a loss. I'm that superstitious when it comes to that. Not that I'm wearing lucky socks or nothing. I don't do that. I'm just that way when it comes to betting. I don't know why. I'm stupid. I am what I am. But I'm hoping for a win on the road. I've said this before, though. Let's say we don't win a Super Bowl with Lamar as the quarterback. Will it be sad? Sure. Will it be a mark on his career? Yes. It is on Dan Marino's. It's going to be a one on his, too. It's only a mark on your career if you're that good of a quarterback. If you're that special of a quarterback and you don't win a Super Bowl, yes, it's a mark on your career. But that also says, hey, you had a heck of a career. Like, no one would talk about Dan Marino if he wasn't a special quarterback, regardless if he won or not. You know, there's plenty of quarterbacks that played in the league that never won Super Bowls that were just okay. You know, no one's going to talk about them. So, I mean, that's going to say, if Lamar doesn't win a Super Bowl, it's not going to diminish the quarterback that he was, but it is going to take his name out of the greatest ever. Now, don't get me wrong, Tom Brady's in a league of his own because he's got 7 Super Bowl wins. I don't think anyone's going to be able to touch that, but if Lamar wins 1 or 2, he's going to be up in that kind of Pat Mahomes territory. But Pat's hunting down Tom right now. You know, so look, I think we got a lot of good quarterbacks in the league. But Lamar's something special. Chargers found out Justin Herbert's not very good, though. Just kidding. He's not, though. All right. Thank you for hanging out with me for an hour. I appreciate it. Go Ravens. Josh Allen's not a bad person. Stop trying to flame him on social media. He did nothing to you. And regardless of who wins against the Ravens and Bills, I hope they beat the Chiefs because screw those guys. Thank you to Adam Chubbuck, TACMD.com, TACMD.com. Talk to him about your real estate needs. Thanks for hanging out. See you next week.